Welcome everybody and welcome to Enolia. And Enolia, I'm going to have you pronounce your last name. I'm not sure.
Enolia Foti.
Foti. Okay. I think I would have said Fauti, so thank you for the pronunciation. Well, Enolia Foti, she and I are a part of a women's group. We've actually never met personally, but we've met several times online, and I feel like I love this woman. I know her heart, I feel like, because we've had so many heart-to-heart conversations. And what I've discovered is that we have so much in common as far as our purpose, our passion, which is basically helping women to discover their voice, helping them to discover who they are, what their purpose is, what their passion is, and how to express that. So Enolia, I would love for you to be able to share a little bit of who you are.
Well, first of all, my name's Enolia Foti, and my spirit name is Changing Times Woman. And wow, who I am. I am a woman that has transformed her life. I started off in the corporate setting and had this passion to study the indigenous. And so it started out going on a trip to the 13 indigenous grandmothers in Omega in Rhinebeck, New York. And I met this beautiful, beautiful woman. Her name is Isabel Mwasagi. And she is a grandmother, a beautiful medicine woman that lived in Northern Ontario. And we eventually met, and I ended up studying under her. And it was beautiful. It was the beginning of a beautiful journey. At that point, then the spiritual aspects of meditation and all aspects of like what is shamanism and yoga started really coming to fruition in my life. And I also had this fascination of studying with the indigenous. So I started to pursue my passion while I was working corporate. I basically would go and take trips to various places like Peru or Bolivia and study and work with different indigenous groups like the Quiros Indians. I've worked with learning from the Lakota, learning from Apache. And what I realized is that they all had aspects of bringing women through rites of passage, these beautiful aspects of bringing women through rites of passage. So in finding me in the midst of all of this beautiful study, started taking what I learned from corporate, what I learned from the indigenous, and started coming up with my own program for women's empowerment. And I found that I could bring women to express their voice, whether I was using my drum making and drum skills, or whether I was actually just bringing them through a full-blown program like a retreat or a workshop. And I started leveraging these skills and that skill set to do just that, to help women find their voice.
It gets all of my wheels turning. I want to know all the details about what you were saying. You mentioned, and I don't know if I got it right, 13 grandmothers?
Indigenous grandmothers, which are, grandmother is an affectionate term for elder and medicine woman, okay? And so there were 13 indigenous grandmothers from all over the world. They were from Tibet, Alaska, from the Dakotas, Native American, from Brazil, and they all gathered together and they had this beautiful message that it was now time to come forward and to use your voice and speak your voice and be empowered and touch the hearts of others in this way, in a beautiful, spiritual, loving way. It's time for us to come forward. And so living that message and finding that message, it really called to my heart because it made me think, okay, why am I really here? Who am I? And what's my purpose here? And it really helped me to find my way of coming forward in that way in regards to what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, because I didn't want to work corporate the rest of my life. And in finding that calling, I found that my role here is to help plant seeds and to help women bring forward their dreams when they feel stuck, when they feel blocked. And not just women, people in general.
Right.
I guess my focus would be women because I'm a woman and because my story is so close to so many other women's stories. But really, in general, overall, you know, I work with men and women, and I hold a lot of women-focused retreats.
That's fantastic. And I find myself saying the same thing. I feel like I am a woman, so I understand women maybe a little better. And that's, I guess, what I focus on. However, I do the same thing, you know, men, women, just anybody who's looking, right? And who connects with who I am and who you are. I wondered if you could tell me, and maybe you'll know how much you want to divulge. I'm really curious on what one of your workshops might look like. And I'm also curious if you have any specific stories of somebody discovering their voice and what that looked like through your program.
Yes, well, I do a series of different workshops. So one of my workshops might be, as I was taught by Grandmother Isabel, how to create your own drum. And so in creating your own drum, what you're doing is you're creating a tool that is really just a part of you, an extension of you. And those moments when you can't speak, when you feel like you are so oppressed in what you want to say, you can go to your drum and you can play. And you can allow that drum to be your voice. And you can play it loudly, beating your drum if you have this huge expression that wants to come out, or you can play it softly if you want to be a whisper. So allowing that tool to be an expression and an extension of you, it's like your child. And it speaks on behalf of you. So that would be that would be one of the workshops I offered, playing the drum in a sacred way, awakening and making a drum, and we do it in ceremony. Another workshop would be, like, for example, I'm kicking off my women's empowerment workshop online, and this one we deep dive into what is it that blocks us and what is it that we feel that is in our way to allow our true self-expression to move forward, not just express itself, but to move forward. A lot of times we hit a point in our lives when we feel like we're stuck, like we're trapped. And we're trapped because we have all of these roles that we're expressing, and we have all of these perceptions that we're fulfilling. And the whole key is to peel away those perceptions and to peel away all of those aspects that we perceive bounds us to where we are in life, so that we can move through them and move past them. Sometimes we are our biggest block, and it's not others' projection on us, but us allowing those projections to be our reality. So in looking at that, I work through a program that allows you to strip those away. And then what we do is we do ceremony. We do ceremony to celebrate it as the indigenous would do. And one of those ceremonies might be cutting cords. One of those ceremonies might be the fact that we understand that our power is in our hearts and in our wombs because we're women. So celebrating that and taking us through various rituals and various ceremonies that celebrate our discovery when we can move past those blocks. So, for example, I worked with a group of women in New York. It was 17 women. And the beauty of this is that when these women came together of different walks and different cultures and different upbringings in life, what they discovered is that they all had the same thing in common. And that common foundation allowed them to understand that we all are wounded in some kind of way. We've all gone through hurt or pain in some kind of way. And many times those hurts and those pains shape our lives. And that we don't have to choose to allow that story or that pain or that wound to shape our lives for the rest of our lives. That we can shed that story, that we can get past that story, and we can move through it and become and discover what we love and who we like, and express ourselves better, and to make decisions not based on a person that's wounded, but based on a person that can celebrate life and love who she is, and look herself in the mirror and love what she sees. So these women actually went through this transformation together. And then the beauty about that is that the tools that they were given within the workshop, they were not allowed, but they were able to create ceremonies for themselves, not go, oh, well, I have to go find Enolia to create that ceremony. No, I can do this. I can bring that joy to my heart, and I can choose to be happy. Choose to make a change in my life. Choose not to let the same triggers that bring me down the same rabbit hole over and over, and not do that. So it's a beautiful thing to see a group of women really, really understand that. And then I did a follow-up, and I have to tell you that I found that 3/4 of those women changed their lives from that workshop. They truly just made different choices, are really, really enjoying life.
That's fantastic. I know a lot of times in, the personal growth world, people will come to an event and they'll feel excited, they'll be motivated, they'll feel on fire, and then they go home and go right back into their old patterns and routines, and just a small portion will make the change. So for you to have 3/4 of those people actually change their lives after the first workshop is really powerful.
Yes, because what it was is that they weren't looking for the answers external to them. I don't provide them answers. I help them find those answers within them. And if your heart is truly calling for change, you're capable of making that change.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's beautiful. As I listened to you, it brought up the question, how have you, in doing this work, are you encountering your own blocks, moving through your own blocks? And in that same context, do you continue to discover places that you're blocked that you didn't realize you were blocked because you've, been emerging gradually? So I guess your own story.
Yes, yes. Well, let me tell you, it was my own story that actually brought me to do this work. It was my own discovery of self. It was my own working through my adversity and my blocks that actually brought me on this path. And you're always doing your work. Mm-hmm. And the workshop came from working through my own blocks, working through my own issues, working through my own troubles, working through my cultural conditioning. And yes, it's an ever-going process. It's like peeling an onion, and there's layer after layer after layer. And anyone who says that they're done is not telling the truth, because we're continuously growing. And every day is an exploration of that beauty of who I am. And I share those stories, and I share what I went through in my workshops, and let women know that they're not alone, that we're all going through different aspects of life where we need to shed, whether it's, you've recently been either divorced, or if you've gone through the fact that you no longer want to work corporate and you've defined yourself in this way and you want to transition from that corporate setting into just doing something that is totally necessarily unlike you, but it's always been you. You've just never been able to express it. So that there are many different traumas that we go through too, and working through those traumas also in our past that we want to make sure don't define who we are as a wounded person. So yes, I look at my adversity and the troubles that I went through, and every day, every single day, I have to make sure that I come from my head and go into my heart and truly define that this is how I want to go through life, not through what my ego says and says, oh, well, this judgment has to take place and this attitude has to be there in order for me to move forward. No, I can come from my heart and be released of judgment and released of perceptions, and not take on anybody else's perceptions, and be me.
Oh, I love it. See, that's the stuff that lights me up. And that's, I think, I feel like there's a lot of things that connect us. First of all, the culture, your love for culture gets me so excited. I love culture. But just the fact that you have come through an experience and have discovered a pattern, you've discovered things that work, things that have helped you to emerge and to find yourself, and then you've created a program to help other people do the same thing. And you're coming from a place of experience, a place of internal knowing, a place of connection. That's where your power comes from. And I've done, and I am doing the same thing. And it is an am doing, I think, that brings the power to it, don't you think? And so yes, when we arrive at the place of I'm done, or I learned it from a book and I get it, so I'm going to teach it. You know, there's has its place for that somewhere. But for this kind of work, I feel like it needs to be internalized. It needs to be understood and continued by the leader. You know, we're not, I guess, teachers, but we're more of just, we're leading and we're showing the way and we're linking arms and we're doing it together as a community. Is that how you feel?
Oh, absolutely. We have to do it as a community, and I've defined my community, and my community is not confined to the United States. My community is global. And once you realize that the women of China are having the same issues as the women of Egypt, as the women of Peru, as the women of the United States, and once you sit down and peel away all of the facades that we perceive of how people are, and we get to the heart of the matter, absolutely, we have all of these things in common. There's a common foundation, there's a common footprint that we're all going through and struggling to be able to just even speak our truth and say who we are and not have to hide who we are. So absolutely, yes.
Amazing.
I totally agree.
Thank you. Is there any one thing or package of things that have to go together that you just are dying to let people know about who you are, what you do, you know, just one thing that I would miss in an interview question that needs to just come out that you want to share at this time?
I am dying to say, come out. Don't be afraid to come and test the waters. Try a workshop and allow your heart to be open, and let me bring you through a rites of passage. Experience what it is to do your work, but then to celebrate your work. The indigenous have had it the whole time. We missed something here in the United States, which was celebration of being a woman, celebration of being this beautiful, feminine, balanced person, because there's masculine and feminine, but being who we are, because a lot of the ways that we express ourselves in our feminine way are kind of looked upon as weak. And we're not weak. We are beautiful, fantastic beings that should be celebrated and that have a voice and have something to say. And if you haven't had that opportunity to truly share your passion and speak your truth, come out and let me help facilitate and bring you there and bring you to that point in your life where you can speak your truth, that you can look in the mirror and love what you see, and that you can celebrate being a woman, and that you can pass and share that to other people and touch the hearts of other people. Because if we don't start with ourselves, we can't make an impact with anyone else. So come out to my retreats where you can do a submersion for 6 days or 7 days. I'm holding a retreat in Santa Fe, New Mexico this May. I'm holding a retreat in Tulum, Mexico in August. I will be at also holding a retreat in New Jersey in at the end of July. It's going to be walking the sacred way in the sacred feminine, walking with the sacred feminine. And it's going to be a beautiful expression. All of these things can be found on my websites. I do an online course also. I'm kicking off a course this January 2nd, so Give the Gift of Empowerment. And it's women's empowerment, and it's live online, so we'll be doing that via Zoom, audio conferencing, where you can have interaction with other women and work with women and just come to the point where you can speak your truth.
That's beautiful. So one of my segments of my own program, it's voice. So I have finding value in you, and then openness to try new things, to learn new things. And that, I believe, is where the power begins. So it spells voice, and the value of who we are is the foundation. But I feel like a lot of times it begins with openness and then intention, which is my eye, to actually act upon the things that we learn through being open to learning. And so the reason I'm saying that is for people who are listening to this interview, being open to experiencing all different ways of finding your voice and finding your truth and expressing yourself and connecting with your with your femininity and your divinity. And, you know, I have gotten to know you through the group that we're in, and I haven't yet participated in one of your workshops. And I'm just going to let people know right now that it is one of my intentions to explore one of your workshops, to find what parts of it speak to me. You know, I'm open to that, and I'm excited about that. And I want to invite anybody who's listening to also, you know, participate and just be open to discovering all of these different amazing truths that are dispersed throughout our world and our communities and our just life. So, Enolia, how do we find you? What is your website, you know, or Facebook or anything that you...
Yes. So my website is my name, enoliafoti.com. That's ENOLIAFOTI.com, or lovesinfinitepossibility.com. I can also be found on Facebook under Enolia Foti or under Enolia Infinite Possibilities. And I was just listening to you, Cary, and the beauty about my workshops is that they are not confined to one location. So if you want to host a workshop, then I actually travel all over the world, and I will actually host the workshop. So whether it's in the United States or another country. And again, I have a global footprint with the retreats. So whether it's in the United States or whether it's Europe or Asia or South America, I do it. So I love the fact that the footprint is global.
I do too. I'm very intrigued by the Tulum event that you're talking about, all of those. So anyway, yeah, that's part of, I mean, because we're not confined to, we might live in different places, but we're still all made up of the same stuff. So that's beautiful to me. I love it. Thank you so, so much for taking the time to interview with me today and to share people a little bit about who you are and what you do. I think there's magic. I feel the magic in you every time I talk to you. So thank you again. Is there anything else?
So much.
You're welcome.
Oh, I love you, Cary. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm very, very grateful. And please keep doing your work. We all have something to offer, and we all have something to give. And it's so important that we all work together. There's room for everybody, and we all have to work together. So I pray that you get just as many people coming to your workshops, because you have a lot to offer too. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you.